Tim Petrowich here for Dateline Marion. Time now again for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. And Coach, I want to talk first about last week's game, a 24-17 win over Jerseyville. And we talked about this a little bit after the game, and I think you kind of knew this before the game as well. That's a pretty good Jerseyville team.
Yeah, they are. You know, we sometimes it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but a team is exactly what you think. And I had anticipated them being a big, strong, physical team, pretty methodical offensively, but very difficult to stop from having sustained drives. And doggone it, they were big and physical and methodical, all that stuff. You're hoping maybe you exaggerate that, or maybe you think on the film you maybe sort of exaggerated just how good they were going to be, but they did not disappoint at all. I mean, they were just what we thought, and they were tough, and they were physical, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Johns and what he does with those kids, because they run that stuff really well. They were tough to move the ball against. We had trouble sustaining drives. I give credit to them. We made some mental mistakes in this game, but I give a lot of credit to Jerseyville. They were a good football team.
Did it surprise you a little bit? It kind of did me that in that first series, I mean, they moved the ball, but in that first series, they threw a little more than I thought maybe they would.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of, we just had that one game film on them, so I don't know if he's trying to use that a little more to open the offense up. But you add that element to what they do, and it's dangerous, because a lot of teams that are a ground first team, that are either double wing or wing T or option like they are, a lot of times the play action can be for home run shots. I mean, they can use that to set up touchdown passes. And I think with their quarterback, as well as he can throw the ball, I think that could be a real weapon for them as the season progresses.
They had trouble in their passing game when they tried it, and I go back and look at the last two games, and we've talked about the defense. One of the things I think that's really stood out defensively, and I don't remember if we mentioned this in last week's talk or not, but the secondary, I think, has done a really good job in coverage.
They have. That's been a really, really positive note for us, is the secondary and how well they played, and making some big plays on crucial downs, third and long situations. They've been outstanding. They have kept people in front of them. They've made plays on the ball. So yeah, that's been a really, really strong point for us after 2 weeks. The secondary's played pretty well for us.
We've talked about the youth on the defense and how this is, you've kind of characterized them as a pretty intelligent crew.
Yeah.
And even in the game last week, there were some plays where some things got away, but, they'd run the same play 2 plays later, and your guys made the adjustments and made the stop.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that ability to adjust during the game is a key factor. And the good teams that I've coached that had good defenses, they always had the ability to adapt and to adjust as the game progressed. And when we play good opponents, I think their defenses are hard to fool on a play more than a couple times. They figure it out. And with a team that's got a lot of new faces on defense for the season, after 2 weeks, they've played well. I mean, I think they got a little tired in Friday's game against Jerseyville at the fault of the offense. I think we didn't sustain enough drives to give them enough breaks to keep them fresh, and I think they wore down a little bit. I thought the last touchdown their quarterback scored, it looked like a tired defense. So overall they played outstanding. You're right about the secondary. A lot of new faces, guys stepping up, and we're getting that experience we need, and we're getting it while we win, which is, I think, really good.
I want to talk about the early part of the game last week, and something that you kind of touched on, finally getting the nerve to do, and that was 2nd and 8 at your own 5-yard line, and out of the tight orange set, you called a play action pass, and it was perfectly executed for a wide open 95-yard touchdown run, or pass.
Yeah, it is something I thought about and wanted to do, and we've done it before, but it's been a while. I know when Matt Brown was quarterback, he completed a 90-plus touchdown pass to Derek Moore on this sideline. I think it was against Althoff. I'm pretty sure, and I think that might be the school record. But we don't do it a lot. But we believe there's 90 yards of grass to play with. And the defense is not expecting you to throw the ball in that situation, and that's the best time to play action, when people are expecting a run. And we rolled the dice. We felt like they were going to be tough to run against. We felt like we had to score on some big plays. And one of the big plays we had in our back pocket was a play action somewhere surprising, maybe middle of the field, 2nd and 1, or some situation. And in this case, it came early in the game. You said 2nd and 8, and I felt it was a good time to try it. But the whole key is, not only was it a good time, but our kids carried it out. They executed it well. John ran a good route. Protection was very good. They were expecting the run, and Lucas threw a perfect ball.
Well, and you talked about John running a good route, but the other thing too was that the next closest person to him was one of his teammates when you watch the play. So
it's true, and we sent 3 receivers out on that play, and 2 of them were wide open, Bryce Cabanis and John. So really, Lucas had his choice who he wanted to throw to, but the first receiver on that progression is John. So that was a big play. I thought it was an exciting play. I thought it gave our team a nice early game lift. We got the 2-point conversion, which I think helped us get off to a good start. And so we take the ball over deep. We get a touchdown. We get a stop by the defense and a touchdown from the offense. So it's pretty good.
Let's talk about Jonathan Tucker, because he had the big catch in Friday's game, but he was the favorite target on Friday night. And in the first 2 weeks, we expected Vincent Newsome, Bryce Cabanis, some of these guys, to make catches on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Frankie Horner, was another one who really came on at the end of last year. Jonathan's kind of been a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, he has. And I think John has always had kind of that big play potential, but to see it manifest itself in the first 2 weeks the way it has, he's kind of a gamer. He steps up and plays big in big situations, and he was just another catch away from another long gain. I mean, he just came very close. So he almost had a monster night for us, but he's played well. He's blocked well for us. He's made some nice runs, got a 2-point conversion on after a point after touchdown the other night. So, John's played well, and he's been a nice surprise for us.
Back on the defense, 3 times you stopped Jerseyville on 4th down, twice inside the 10. Mm-hmm. Another time you talked about your red zone defense. Another time you got an interception down near the goal line from Dre Gravatt. Big plays at the right time for the defense.
That's true, and that's Coach Denning, Coach Wimberly, Coach Skeet. I always give shout outs to those guys, because they've got what was, I think, in a lot of people's minds, the biggest question mark was that new defense and how well they would play. And you only go one game at a time, but after looking at those first 2 ball games, boy, they've really, I think, exceeded a lot of expectations, and I'm hoping they'll continue now to take that experience and grow. And as we say this year, our motto is elevate, and continue to elevate and not be satisfied, which, that's just big moments, big situations, coming up big on short yardage plays against a short yardage offense that's pretty good at getting 2, 3, 4 yards, and to get the number of stops we got was really exciting.
It's really hard when you do an interview to try to follow an order and not jump back and forth, but when you think of things, you want to talk about them. And so I've gone back and forth between offense and defense, and so if people are confused, I hope it's not too confusing. But anyway, I want to go back to something else you talked about, and that was sustaining drives in the game and the defense being tired. So when they scored that last touchdown, made it 24-17, you got the ball back with about 6 minutes left. And what you were able to do at that point was sustain a drive long enough to run the clock out. And so, again, at the right time, you got what you needed.
That's a good point. I think I was worried. We had 6 minutes to go in the game, which is a long time. But I think they were down to 1 timeout, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 0 or 1 timeout?
Yeah, I think they called their last timeout on their last possession.
I think you're right. I think they started the drive. They had no timeouts when we started with 6 minutes to go. We knew that it would just take a few first downs, and so we went to some different play calls. We did some different things. We told the kids during some of those huddle breaks to make sure we take care of the football and fight for every yard, because every yard matters right now. And we eked out a couple of first downs and able to celebrate with a victory formation, and that was a real satisfying part of the game, was to be able to call that 4-minute offense, your ability to take the ball and use the clock and finish the game off. And that was really big, because I think we only had one other decent drive, and it ended on a fumble, I think in the third quarter or second quarter. So to have that drive and even that drive, that last one was 6 minutes to go, started deep.
Right, it did.
We had a slip and fall on the kickoff. And
started the 11, I think,
Yeah, we had a long way to go, and we were kind of in a hole, and so it looked like they were going to have a chance to get a stop and get the ball back in good field position. But our offensive line and our backs and receivers made sure that didn't happen, so it was a big drive.
One of those first downs was a fairly difficult catch by Frankie in traffic, and he had 2 catches, and both of them were hard because one of them was that one, and the other one was a long pass that was underthrown. He had to come back into coverage and get it, and to keep your last scoring drive alive. So he's starting to make those big plays. I think you expected.
And he caught a 2-point conversion at the West End also. So quietly in the second half, he had a big half for us. And that catch here that kept that drive alive, Lucas made a great timing throw because he really threw it as Frankie was making his break, and because he threw it as early as he did, it ended up working because the coverage was pretty good actually. And Frankie worked back, got the ball, and was able to get the first down. But a lot of big plays in this ball game, a lot of big plays by a lot of different people, and I was just real proud of the kids. We made some mistakes in the ball game that cost us some big plays, but I love the resilience and the fight in our kids, and you got to have that. Sometimes you got to gut out some wins. They don't come easy, and with our schedule, it just gets tougher, and we're going to have to find a way to gut some more out and just keep playing and keep elevating.
Before we get to Highland, I want to touch on this because this is probably kind of a difficult week for you in practice. I know with the heat, a lot of events being canceled, and it's going to cool off in time for Friday's game, or we hope so anyway, but how do you adjust during the week to deal with the heat?
That's a good question, and I think one of the things that the coaches I'm talking to in my circle, my network of coaches, are all dealing with cramping. And I think there's a couple of factors why we're dealing with it. First of all, most of July was very cool. We didn't have this kind of weather that we're having to play in, and it's a lot more humid and hot during the week and on game night. So I think our camp, we had temperatures in the 70s and 80s for 2 weeks. It was probably the coolest 2 weeks we've had at camp in a long time. That's in July. Now we start the season, and we've had to curtail some conditioning and some of the things we do in practice because we're under some heat advisories. So we've got to be very careful about how, what we do in practice to help our kids acclimate, but also, not hurt anybody because of the overheat situation. So, but then come Friday, you got to play the game.
Right.
But you've not been able to go as hard maybe as you once did in practice because of the advisories. So we're having to juggle this, work hard. We start indoors sometimes where we're not wearing helmet and shoulder pads other times for half the practice, then put them on for the more physical parts of practice. It's been a bit of a juggling act. And I know we're not the only ones facing it or dealing with what do you do. Number one thing is player safety. So if you cramp a little on Friday, you deal with it because you got to take care of your kids. You got to make sure they're safe. I don't think, this is an old timer talking, I don't think kids handle heat as well as they used to. Kids aren't outside as much in the heat. They don't recreate in the heat like they used to when I was a kid in the old days when you and I played wiffle ball and basketball outside all the time. And so, no fault of theirs, it's just a different time. I think the acclimation to the heat has changed a lot. Consequently, as a head coach, I've had to adapt to that and understand, well, this isn't the 1980s when you played, right? You're going to have to understand the kids today are different, and so we practice a little differently. We still want to acclimate them, but we have to be smart about it. And when your AD sends out notices that, hey, we need to be careful today, there's a heat advisory, and the IHSA has standards, we got to follow them. So it's not been easy, to be honest with you. We're trying to feed them right, get Gatorade and bananas in their system during the week, get them to hydrate more, but it has been a challenge.
So this Friday night's Highland. It's a team that has, over the last couple of years, been really, really good. And they lost quite a bit to graduation last year. Still probably a pretty decent team. They come into the game 1-1, and after losing their season opener, they bounced back with a nice win last week against Belleville East, which is a borderline 7A, 8A school.
Right. I'm impressed. Coach Warnicki is as good a coach as we will face all season long, including whoever we play in the playoffs. That's just it. He's a young guy who has transformed that program and taken it to another level. They lost a lot. They're still very good. The heart and soul of the team this year, I think, is their offensive and defensive lines. They have got some good kids up front. That's the first thing you notice on film. Second thing is just how well coached they are. Very disciplined. They're doing those little things that only a kid that's coached well would be doing what he's doing. So it's a great challenge. It's fun to watch because they're so fundamentally sound. And I personally, as a coach, I'm a fan of coaches, and I like watching well-coached teams, and you can just see it in their kids. But it's a nice challenge for our staff. It's a nice challenge for our kids because it forces you to, I'll use that word again, it forces you to elevate your game. Just to go out and just do what you do and hope it works. We've had to work extremely hard to look for some things that we can exploit that they do, but they don't give you much room for error, Petro. The margin is not very big, so we've got to make sure that we execute really well, we stay sound, we take care of the ball. Last year we had a big turnover early in that game, and that hurt us, and you can't make those kinds of mistakes against the Highland team. So we got to play really well, we've got to play well on special teams, and we got to help our defense out this week offensively. We've got to move the ball, sustain some drives, and but it's going to be a tough challenge because they're very, very good.
Now looking at some of their stats, in last few years they've been pretty good at passing. This year they're averaging about 250 yards or so on the ground a game, and they've only thrown for about 100 yards. But when you look at the numbers, you see a lot of different players touch the ball too.
Yeah, and they run the ball well. And if I had to look at his roster and see what he's got an offense system right now built to run the ball. He's got a big fullback, he's got the big offensive line, he's got some speed in the backfield, he's got a quarterback that's young but can run. So right now they've got the dudes. You got to do what your skill set of your players is and what that leans towards. And right now, I think they've got a team that's very well built to run, and I think he's doing that. And I think the passing game will come. He's got a young quarterback, and of course the run game is always ahead of the passing game. But I think that will come as the season progresses. But like Jerseyville, there'll be a play-action team that will try to make you pay for loading the box against them. But you got to load the box to stop the run.
Right.
But you got to leave yourself, not making yourself vulnerable to some of the play-action stuff off of it. So it'll be a good challenge for us. Our kids certainly will have to step up and go to another level as far as this run offense compared to any of the two we faced so far. And that's no disrespect to Jerseyville or Bahamas, but I think Highland has a really strong run game with those kids up front especially.
How awesome was the feel of the place Friday night?
You would have to be here to fully understand it. You couldn't explain to someone what our students did, what our crowd did. The crowd stays with us the whole night. The students take the field. The student section, the Maniacs were amazing the whole game. As good as I've ever seen them. Then they come down, and when we have that celebration at the end where the players are there, the coaching staff, and the cheerleaders, and all the Maniacs gather around, hundreds and hundreds of kids, and then the parents, and that whole atmosphere down there in that East End zone, and the music playing, the kids are all singing John Denver song, and I mean, I don't know, I just wanted to bottle that and be able to enjoy that longer than it happened, because I knew it was going to end. I was like, I don't want this moment to end.
Well, you've talked about the team needing to elevate, and it seems like that the crowd and the Maniacs have elevated a little bit too this
that's
year.
A good point. Yeah. So, no, it was special. I mean, when I'm done coaching, those are the moments I'll think back and I'll miss the most and I'll cherish the most, because I think we won the game, and I say we, coaches, players, fans, parents, Maniacs, everybody. And there was a community celebration, a school celebration. It was bigger than our team. It was bigger than just a football game. It was just awesome.
Well, if you have not seen that atmosphere and you would like to, this Friday night is your opportunity.
Any Friday night. We got 4 home games left. And I encourage people to come out, cheer us on. I can't guarantee victories every week, but I guarantee effort. I guarantee our kids will give it all they got. I guarantee you'll love the atmosphere that's here. and it's going to be exciting. We've got a really tough matchup this week. Got a tough bunch of ball games coming up, but our kids have shown they can handle it. Hopefully, we can keep getting better.
All right, this Friday, Highland comes to Marion to play at Wildcat Stadium. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. That's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.